Hi, I'm Greg Alderman. Welcome to One Voice Board. Today we're going to talk about a metaphor that will help you understand your role on the board and what the purpose of the board is. If you find this helpful, make sure you make a comment below. And if you want new material released by OVB right when it's released, hit the subscribe button. All right, let's dive right in. I want you to imagine with me this metaphor, this example that kind of gets at the heart of what our role together as a board is in a local church or in a nonprofit. And we're going to use the idea of an expansion franchise, a football team that's going to be joining a league, okay? And every team starts with an owner. So that owner of the team has a first and most important decision to make. The owner says, I need a general manager, right? And the owner hires the GM. Now, the general manager is the one who's responsible for carrying out what the owner wants to see happen. And so the GM has a lot of decisions to make. Of course, the reason the team exists is to participate in the league and win the league. And we all know that if you're going to win in sports, you need a great coach. So the GM has the most important decision to make. Who do I hire as a coach? Now, the GM has already listened to the owner, has a good idea of what the owner wants. That's how he got the job in the first place. And now the GM looks for a coach who's going to be joining the organization to fit the vision and the purpose that the GM has as he carries out the marching orders of the owner. So this coach is going to be in alignment, taking response from the GM, who's, of course, listened to the owner. Now, a football field is a pretty easy thing to picture in your mind if you've seen at least one game, right? And I want to just give you a basic picture of a football field. You have the two end zones and the 50-yard line, okay? If you've watched any football game at all, you know there's a lot of rules. And the rules for the game are supplied not by the owner. In this sense, the rules are supplied by the league. There's something that's given to the team that they have to participate within the confines of the rules, just like every other team. There's referees that make sure that the rules are being followed when two teams are in conflict trying to win the game. And their goal is not to decide on the strategy of the teams, but simply to make sure the teams are following the rules. In policy governance, we call these boundary principles. For example, if a runner is carrying the ball and goes outside the line here, they have gone out of bounds. In the same way, when we are carrying out the plays of ministry, when we're doing the work of ministry, we need to stay in bounds and follow the rules. Now, I'm not going to give you a boring lecture on all the possible ways this metaphor works out for violating rules, but if you've watched any football game, you know some teams are better at following the rules than others. No teams I'm going to mention specifically, okay? But back to the metaphor. Now, you know that just throwing 11 people on the field and saying, here's the ball, go play, is going to have some pretty poor results. If that coach is not organizing an offensive, a defensive, and at the very least, a special teams strategy, they're going to get smothered by any even partially organized team. So a good coach is organizing, developing an offensive and defensive and special teams philosophy, and they're deploying their teams. Now, one coach can't do that by themselves, can they? So this coach has an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, a special teams coach, but he also has a lot of other coaches who are in support roles, a strength coach, a strategy coach, and all these coaches get together and they work together to organize the team. A good team has the coaches all on the same page. You don't have one coach teaching one technique over here and another coach teaching another technique that's completely opposite. They're teaching with a common philosophy and a common understanding that's consistent with what the head coach has said he wants happening, and of course, fits the philosophy the GM wants. Now, you know that it's not the purpose of a football game to just show up and play on the field. you need to score touchdowns. And you need to prevent the other team from scoring touchdowns. So there's a lot that goes into this. It's not enough to just show up and run around on the field and feel good about ourselves. We have to actually be working towards fulfilling the purpose of winning the game. We have to know what constitutes winning the game and how to do it. Now, you can probably see where I'm going with this. We know in the church who the owner is. The owner is Jesus. For the purposes of this metaphor, the general manager is the board. I want to make it clear. Some of you are sitting there thinking, hey, listen, Jesus makes the rules. Yeah, he does. Well, I'll be with you on that. Jesus is not only the owner of the church, but he also makes the rules, right? But the board, as we've taught in Principle 1, represents the owner, who's Jesus, right? He represents the philosophy the owner wants, the accountability the owner wants, the boundaries the owner wants, and of course, the purpose. And make no mistake, Jesus put us here to fulfill a purpose. Now, the purpose, of course, in the church is not winning football games. It is winning souls. And that purpose is very easily defined and really honestly, most importantly defined as making disciples, and making disciples who then go out and share the kingdom value of the good news of Jesus Christ. So a board that's truly representing Jesus is going to look for a pastor, a head coach, who's on the same page about what they want to get done. The board speaks to the pastor, here's principle 2, with one voice. And that pastor gets partnership and protection from the board, but also he has to fulfill the purpose, and he's going to be held accountable for that purpose by the board as well. That's the spears up, spears out metaphor. And so the pastor then hires coaches, leaders in his ministry areas, and he deploys them to do the work to equip the body for works of ministry. That's like coaches equipping the players to fulfill the purpose of winning a football game. This metaphor is so easy to understand. The next time you watch a game, whether it's baseball, football, soccer, rugby, doesn't matter what it is, I want you to think about what went in to helping that team that you're watching on the field be successful. This metaphor applies whether it's a sports franchise that's paid professionals or even amateur teams. There is this idea of how we need to organize ourselves in order to be effective. I have never met a coach in any sport that takes the idea of what they're doing seriously and doesn't value doing the work with excellence. Let me say something else about good coaches. One of my favorite coaches, because I'm a UCLA guy, is John Wooden. And John Wooden had something called the Pyramid of Success. And if you look closely at the Pyramid of Success, the most important foundational principles of the Pyramid of Success is the building of men with great character. He used the game in order to build men. But make no mistake, John Wooden was also about winning. As he built these men up, he made them a cohesive team to win. See, part of what sports does best, and really is a great metaphor for the church, is you understand that unless we are on the same page, we can't win. We can't beat good teams unless we're working together, unless we're developing together, unless we're growing together, unless we're trusting each other, unless we're blessing each other, unless we're really, truly doing our part to make sure that everybody looks good. Well, same thing in the church. In a church, the pastor needs to lead the leaders. The leaders need to organize the ministry, and the way they organize that ministry is for the purpose of equipping the body to do the work of joining Jesus in spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. If we are about the business of building character in the men and women of the church so that they go out and fulfill the purpose for which they are created, then we're in line with what the owner wants. Hey, if you found this helpful, or even if you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out at greg@onevoiceboard.org.